everybody enjoyed the holiday weekend. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, July 8th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we had some big breakout performances this weekend. Waiver wire adds and drops. Pitcher regression continues. We'll talk about some bad starts. We'll also talk about some good ones, some starter sit decisions, and much more. Let's jump in.
Give me that burger to go! It's a walk-off win!
There hasn't been much to cheer about with the Marlins this year, but that call was fantastic from Bally Sports, Florida. So courtesy to them, Jake Berger with a walk-off home run on Sunday. Great call there. Speaking of the Marlins, I did want to ask this first and foremost. Scott, did you stay for the entire game on the 4th of July?
Yes. We stayed for all 12 innings.
Oh.
I can only imagine you with like your kids and just.
Oh, they were so into it. It's pretty amazing.
Did you get any ice cream in a helmet?
They did. I did not.
Good.
Yeah, it was, because Nick Pivetta had a no-hitter going into the 7th, and then there was a play, a runner thrown out the bottom half of the 9th inning, a runner thrown out at home to keep the game going. So it got pretty exciting there in the later innings. We stuck around for all of it. They were into it. It was great considering we had nothing invested in the two teams personally. I thought that was pretty impressive the way they hung with it. So yeah, we'll be going back sometime soon to the old ball yard.
Let's stick with you, Scott. Player of the weekend. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Ben Rice, who homered 3 times on Saturday at home. And you might think, okay, left-handed hitter at Yankee Stadium. These may have been some cheapy home runs, right? No, they were not. They were hit 103.7 miles per hour, 105.1 miles per hour, and 110.8 miles per hour, which was his new high by 3.4 miles per hour. I believe 2 of them would have been out in every stadium, and 1 would have been out in 29 of 30. So these were legit home runs that Ben Rice hit. And it forced me to look at what he's been doing for the Yankees, because he hadn't had enough big games really for me to take notice. And what he's been doing is very impressive. His line drive rate is high. His fly ball rate is high. His pull rate is high. His ground ball rate is low. That he has one of those swings that's optimized for damage, whether you're talking about hits or home runs. And it was kind of the same in the minors. Ben Rice, amazing numbers as a minor leaguer, was not a particularly high-end prospect considering. I think a lot of it had to do with him being a defensively challenged catcher, but he's not playing catcher now. He's
very
playing
old.
First base. Yeah, that probably had something to do with it too. The strikeout rate is low. He added a couple Sunday, but still just 17.2%. You look at his expected stats going into Sunday's game. They haven't been updated yet. Expected batting average 338. Expected slug 698. So StatCast believes his swing is optimized for damage too. And given that he has the minor league track record he does, I'm not so inclined to doubt it at this point. He hasn't been playing quite every day. They faced a lot of lefties and he's played against some, but it hasn't been quite every day at bats yet. But considering Ben Rice is catcher eligible, he doesn't necessarily need to. I don't know that I can get him in my top 12 in one catcher leagues.
Mm-hmm.
There's a case to be made for it if you're just chasing upside, because I think there's plenty of upside here. But I really like what I'm seeing from Ben Rice, and I am bold prediction right now. I'm going to say Anthony Rizzo doesn't get his job back.
Ooh.
So that kind of begs one question that I was going to ask, which is, I don't know if there's any leagues where Ben Rice is not catcher eligible, if any of the fantasy providers aren't listing him at catcher eligible. I know all the ones where I have him in, he's catcher eligible, but let's say you played in a 15-team league where he wasn't catcher eligible. Would he still be a viable corner infielder?
15 teams, I would say so. I'd have him in that discussion. Shoot, Jonathan Singleton's in that discussion.
Yeah. I think even in 12-team roto leagues with the corner infield spot, because even leagues, like that, I think someone like Ryan O'Hearn is being used, right? So if Ryan O'Hearn is being used, I kind of look at Ben Rice. Like Ben Rice probably has more upside, but it's a similar situation where right now he's only playing mostly against right-handed pitching. So
He's started 4 games so far against lefties, though.
Ben Rice,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
He actually led all 4 games in a row. They dropped.
yeah,
him
and he's
in the
been
lineup.
moved into the leadoff spot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's lots to like here. And Ben Rice, 61% rostered. I do think he mostly has catcher eligibility on all the fantasy sites, but some names that he is behind right now in terms of roster percentage on CBS. Jonah Heim, that's an easy one, right?
I mean, he's hot right now.
I know he had a big game here on Sunday, but
yeah, he's hitting like
I'll take Rice.
He's like hitting 360 over the last 10 games, but I think that's fine. Yeah.
What about Ben Rice versus Connor Wong, who the StatCast numbers don't really buy it, but he's been hitting consistently.
I'll take Rice.
What about Ben Rice versus David Fry, who has slowed down?
Rice.
Yeah, as of today, I'm inclined to say Rice.
Rice over Fry.
Yeah.
Are you telling me a shrimp fried this rice?
I'm just going to leave that one there. What about Ryan Jeffers, who got off to the great start? He slowed down. He's kind of picked things back up again. He's hitting for some power. I think that one's really close.
Yeah. I'd have to look into Jeffers a little bit more, but I had been discouraged by the way he was trending and in shallower leagues where catchers are so interchangeable. I think I might just go for Rice.
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
Okay, I lied. One more. Sean Murphy, who has now sat out 3 of the past 5 games and is hitting around 200 on the season.
Yeah. I may come to regret it, but I'm going to say Rice.
I don't know if I could bring myself to do it, but I'm not going to say it's the wrong choice, I guess is how I would put it.
All right, Chris, let's go over to you. Player of the weekend. And I'm just letting everyone know I had nothing to do with who they chose here.
Yeah, Frank tried to talk us out of picking 2 Yankees for our players of the weekend. But look, we have to talk about Luis Gil and what he did against the Red Sox on Sunday, because after a just absolutely dismal 3-start stretch where people were talking about dropping Luis Gil, he comes out 6 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 0 walks. I think he had 13 in the previous 3 starts, 9 strikeouts. Velocity was up 1.1 miles per hour on the fastball. He was in the strike zone 49% of his pitches, including well over 50% with the fastball. I don't quite know what to make of it, because everything we said about Luis Gil after his terrible previous 3 starts is still true. There's still a lot of downside. There's still a lot of concerns about how and when the Yankees are going to limit his usage at some point. But I will say, if you were on the edge of dropping Luis Gil, this should walk you back from it. There's no even Shane Baz. I don't think I would drop Luis Gil for Shane Baz, although I would not be surprised if Shane Baz was better the rest of the way. You probably have someone less inspiring than Luis Gil when he's at his best. How often he will be at his best moving forward, it's a very, very reasonable question, and one I don't unfortunately have the answer to, because I cannot see into the future. But, I mean, you have to feel better about him coming off of the start. And I do wonder if there was, like, the pitch profiles weren't that different. Like, the movement profiles weren't significantly different. Specifically, what you look for on the fastball would be the vertical break. That was identical. He wasn't, generating more rise on the fastball, but the velocity was up. And does make me wonder if there was some kind of mechanical flaw that the Yankees discovered in between the most recent start in this one, or what. But I think you have to feel better about the prospects of starting him moving forward now.
So I wasn't on the podcast after his last start. It's easy for me to say now, I know, but I would have taken a more optimistic tone than it sounded like you guys took, because from what I've seen from Luis Gil this year, it seems like he can only beat himself. When he throws strikes, nobody can touch him. And that's helped.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, his previous 4 starts, he threw 57% of his pitches for strikes, which is terrible. He walked 8 per 9. This one, he got back to throwing 65% of his pitches for strikes, which is actually good. And, during that long stretch where he dominated, the strike percentage was, I think, around 63%, which isn't great, but it's not terrible, like 57%.
Okay, so my only thing there was there's been 1 month in his career where
it hasn't been a very long career. I mean, we could
no, but it
just reminded me of the way people were abandoning ship on Garrett Crochet when he had a bad 3-start stretch in April, and it's like, guys, have you seen him pitch? The talent is there, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, Luis Gil, I don't think clearly. I mean, the previous 4 starts show that he hasn't whipped this control thing, but we've also seen it go away for stretches. That makes me think, okay, maybe he can put it aside for long enough to be a considerable fantasy asset. There is that wild card issue of the pitch limit, the inning limit, that could come into play at some point. We don't really know. It's kind of impossible to account for that because only the Yankees know what their plan is to the extent that there is a plan. But if we're taking that out and just assessing Luis Gil as a pitcher, I see somebody who really just has one big flaw that could prove to be a fatal flaw, but I think there's been enough success this year that the jury's still out whether it's going to be fatal or not. And I would absolutely hold on to him.
Right. I was never giving up on Luis Gil. I want to make that clear, and I think that should have come through in our previous discussions. I was never dropping Luis Gil.
I didn't listen to you guys, believe me.
People were.
Wow.
The royal people were.
Yeah.
But no, I think the distinction between Garrett Crochet and Luis Gil was...
Yeah, Crochet is better.
One should have never been dropping either of them, given the upside that they've shown. That was always a mistake, no matter what. You shouldn't have been driving Luis Gil. You should have been driving Garrett Crochet. The distinction here, and it might be an unfair one, is that Luis Gil has a longer track record as a professional than Garrett Crochet. And throughout that track record, the little we saw of him in the majors before this season, but also April of this year, June of this year, and his entire minor league career, you're talking about walk rates in the mid to high teens. And then you had May, where it was 8.5%. That was the key distinction there, where Garrett Crochet had less of a track record, but good and bad, to go on. Whereas Luis Gil, that one thing that he fixed in May, that was the only time he'd really ever fixed it. And so that was why I was more skeptical of Luis Gil than Garrett Crochet.
With all of that being said, Luis Gil is currently 62% started on CBS. He's at the Orioles this week. They are third in WOBA against righties. In shallower leagues, if you can get away from it, I think I would try to.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. They scored 7 runs in an inning and third against him the last time they faced him. So yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable to be scared off of him. But that just means that Luis Gil is in the same range of my rankings as like Kevin Gausman and Carlos Rodon, guys who we saw a very good Kevin Gausman start this week. I think there will be very good starts from all 3 of those guys. I just don't expect excellence every time out anymore.
Fair enough. Let's talk about my player of the weekend. That will be Jose Miranda, who has been racking up the hits. 5 for 5 on July 4th. Then he went 4 for 4 with his 9th home run on Friday. He's now batting .331 with a .906 OPS in 73 games this season. He's lowered the strikeout rate. It's really good, 13%. He's posted career highs in average exit velocity, barrel rate, fly ball rate. The expected numbers look pretty good for Jose Miranda, a .288 XBA, a .470 X slug. He's up to 73% roster. He has first and third base eligibility. I will admit, I've been kind of skeptical. I'm like, is he going to stick around? Is this actually for real? But he's been doing it for almost half the season now, and it kind of looks for real.
The season-long expected WOBA is up to 349. That's a really solid mark. I felt a little bad. I was watching that game. They brought him in as a pinch hitter in like the 7th inning after Correa's injury. He got replaced by Kyle Farmer. Then Miranda pinch hit for Farmer, and Miranda was riding a 10-game hitting streak. And I hate when guys have even a short hitting streak and they bring him on as a pinch hitter. It's like, you're not really. He got a single, roped a single to left field, line drive. He's super locked in right now. I think Miranda probably needs to be 100% rostered as long as this hot streak runs.
The next question becomes, there are some pretty interesting corner infielders that are still out there in about the same number of leagues as Miranda. We're talking about guys like Noelvi Marte, Mark Vientos. Other first basemen I brought up recently that have been hot are Nate Lowe and Andrew Vaughn. Scott, would you take Miranda over Marte, Vientos, Nate Lowe, Andrew Vaughn?
Well, at this point, I would say I like all of the third basemen over those first basemen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a question of what order I put them in. And we may differ on this, which says that it's close. I think Noel V. Marte has the highest ceiling and is capable of contributing in the most ways. So I'd put him number one.
Mm-hmm.
For points leagues, I'd put Miranda 2 because he has a 13% strikeout rate. For Roto leagues, I'd put Vientos number 2 for the potential impact he could have in home runs. But I agree with Chris that they should all probably be rostered wherever possible. I know there's one league where I'm having to drop Vientos, but that's on the shallower end, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair. All right, quick reminder to sign up for the FBT newsletter. If you haven't already, you can scan the QR code that will take you right to the website where you click on the FBT logo, you punch in your email address, and it's easy as that. You'll get a newsletter delivered to your email inbox every single weekday. And another reminder that Scott's Week 16 sleepers are out. We didn't get to touch on those or preview Week 16 last week because of the holiday, obviously, and we pre-recorded our July 4th podcast there. But yes, you can find them on the website, cbssports.com/fantasy/baseball, sleeper hitters, sleeper pitchers, 2-star pitcher rankings for the week. So make sure to go check that out as
Better
well.
do it quickly because the first game Monday is 12:35 Eastern.
Is that a makeup game or something? Why is that happening?
I don't know, but it means I have to stay up late to set my lineups because I sleep late. So because we record a podcast at 1 in the morning.
Yes, I do not love that early start time on Monday, but here we are. Let's take our first break, and when we return, news and notes right after this.
At CBS Sports Golazo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
Welcome back in. The news and notes. Julio Rodriguez was removed early on Saturday with discomfort in his lower right quad. An MRI showed no structural damage, but Julio was out of the lineup on Sunday. How are you guys handling J-Rod this week?
I'm starting him. Unless we learn that the injury is more serious, I'll start him.
Shallower 3 outfielder league, you might have alternatives. It's not like in points leagues he's been pulling his weight anyway.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I think he'll probably play most of the week.
Yordan Alvarez was diagnosed with a right knee contusion after getting hit by a pitch on Saturday. He was out of the lineup on Sunday, but manager Joe Espada seemed to downplay the injury. Similar case here? Are we just starting Alvarez, assuming he's in?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
The Phillies manager Rob Thompson said Bryce Harper is, quote, in play to be activated from the IL on Tuesday. Thompson also confirmed that Kyle Schwarber will be activated on Tuesday. So Schwarber's a go. He's fine. How do you guys feel about Bryce Harper this week?
Riskier, obviously, but he's Bryce Harper. So
I'd start
probably going to activate him.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto will begin playing catch this week. He's been out since mid-June with a right rotator cuff strain. Jarrett Jones was placed on the IL with a grade 2 right lat strain. He's going to be shut down from throwing for at least 2 weeks. It sounds like he will pretty clearly miss the rest of July, hopefully back in August. Devin Williams is scheduled to throw live batting practice Tuesday at American Family Field. It sounds like they're expecting him back at some point in late July. 65% rostered. We mentioned the name a lot recently. But if you do play, even in a shallower points league, Devin Williams, once he returns, he could be one of the top 5, top 3 closers in fantasy. So make sure to get him on your teams if he's available. Blake Snell is likely to start Tuesday against the Blue Jays, which I believe makes him a 2-star pitcher this week.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like every time he returns, it's for 2 starts, and we have to make this decision.
Yeah, but I think it's a pretty easy decision. You sit him. Sit him. The matchups are good. Toronto, and I think I presume the Twins are bad against lefties. I don't have the updated info, but I presume so. But yeah, it's just there hasn't been a good start from Blake Snell yet.
The Twins have the second best WOBA against lefties this season.
Oh, that surprises me. Okay, all the more reason to sit him.
Yeah, I'm even in like a 15-team league like TGFBI. I didn't really consider starting him.
The Tigers list Jack Flaherty as their scheduled starter on Thursday against the Guardians. He's been dealing with this back injury off and on recently. The only start that we did see him make, or his most recent start rather, was not a good one against the Angels. Would you guys start or sit Jack Flaherty against the Guardians?
So this is actually the Jack Flaherty, Blake Snell decision is one I have to make in TGFBI. And currently, I'm sitting them both.
Oh, okay. I thought you
and
had
I'm
to start
starting Michael Kopech, which I don't love.
Oh, the big meltdown Sunday for Kopech.
It's just, no, that was bad. And I mean, Snell has been so bad all season, and Flaherty hasn't actually been that bad, even amidst this little hiccup with the back. It's just, he hasn't been great. He hasn't been going deep in innings, and it's the Dodgers. So
the Guardians.
Guardians.
Oh, okay.
Tough matchup.
Yeah,
Tough
sorry,
matchup any way you look at it. But
yeah.
Like if faced with that choice, I'd go Flaherty, but in a vacuum, I'd try not to start Flaherty.
I think I'm leaning towards getting Flaherty in, but I'm a little nervous about it.
In your situation, Chris, I think I would use Flaherty of those three that you mentioned, with him, Kopech, and Blake Snell this week. Jose Altuve left Friday's game after getting hit by a pitch on his left hand. He sat out Saturday, but was back in the lineup on Sunday. Ketel Marte left Friday's game due to lower back tightness. He was out of the lineup both Saturday and Sunday. And I heard on one of the broadcasts that apparently this is something he's been dealing with kind of off and on all season. You wouldn't know because Ketel Marte has been amazing this season.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel about him? You know, backs are a little bit more tricky.
So he was in Sunday?
He was out.
Oh, he's out Sunday. Okay.
Yep.
That's tough. I'd lean yes, but if you have a great alternative, then better to play it safe, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Luis Rengifo was placed in the IL with right wrist inflammation. Keston Hiura had his contract selected by the Angels, and he was actually crushing it in the minors this year. 270 batting average, 18 homers, 882 OPS. Still striking out quite a bit, but he's a name that could matter in AL only leagues. Again, that's Keston Hiura.
The Angels have built like a team that the sort of team that I used to build when I was a kid. Full of players I thought were good, but every team in real life had given up on them. I'd like put that team together in a video game and try to win with it. That seems to be what the Angels are doing here.
It's like Nolan Shanwell, first round pick. Keston Hiura, first round pick, right? I think Willie Calhoun was a first round pick. Zach Neto, Mickey Moniak, Joe Adele. It's like it's hilarious, the roster that they've put together. I think there was like a point where the Heat had like 4 of the first 6 players drafted in the 2003 draft. Maybe they're going for something like that. They don't really have a LeBron James or a Dwayne Wade or a Chris Bosh.
Well, when Trout is healthy.
But, you know, they've got some Hashim Thabits.
Gosh.
I mean, I don't
think that was actually the right.
No, I don't think that was
Tyler
the right
Anderson.
They have the Darko Miliciches, Chris. That's who they have. Of that draft. Anyway, it's just like the island of misfit toys. That's what's going on with the Angels right now. They also have like Miguel Sano, who's been out of baseball, and just a very interesting team. Look, I'm rooting for Keston here. I hope it works out. Pirates GM Ben Cherington said Sunday that he anticipates David Bednar reporting to AAA this week to begin a rehab assignment. He's on the IL with a left oblique strain. Here's a name we haven't heard in a while. Matt McClain has been cleared for baseball activities. He had shoulder surgery back in March and should be back sometime in August. He's 46% rostered. Are you looking to stash Matt McClain?
Yep. And it sounds like Xander Bogaerts is going to be back sooner than expected too. He's already on a rehab assignment. So those were 2 I saw dropped in some of those 15 teamers that don't offer IL spots.
Mm-hmm.
I've picked them up. I've picked them both up where they were available.
Max Muncy has been shut down from swinging a bat, and he's been out since mid-May with a right oblique strain, which just continues to crop up every time he is getting ready to ramp back up. But yeah, it's been a frustrating season for Max Muncy. Gleyber Torres left Friday's game with groin tightness and was out of the lineup Saturday and Sunday as well. I mean, this is an easier one in shallower leagues. I think even 12-team roto, he just hasn't been good either. So I think you can get away from Gleyber Torres if you have an okay alternative. Lars Nootbaar has finished his rehab assignment at AAA and could rejoin the Cardinals as soon as Monday. He's 36% rostered. Were you guys looking to add Lars Nootbaar here on Sunday night?
Yeah, maybe not in 3 outfielder leagues, but if he's out there in a 5 outfielder league, absolutely.
Okay. Tommy Edman is on track to begin his minor league rehab assignment at AA on Tuesday. He's been out all season after having surgery on his right wrist. How would you guys rank Edman, Bogarts, McLean in terms of stashability?
Bogarts, Edman, McLean. If it's a shallower league, I might put McLean ahead of Edman for the upside.
Agree with that.
The Tigers recalled Parker Meadows, who was hitting really well in the minors, and he had an immediate impact. 1 for 4 with a homer on Friday, 2 for 4 on Saturday, and then he stole a bag on Sunday. And then he was removed with a right hamstring injury. And it sounds like he's likely to go on the IL. Just terrible, terrible timing. He was somebody I brought up on our sleepers, breakouts, and busts for the second half, and it looked like he was ready to make that impact already. But yeah, bad timing here for Parker Meadows. Yu Darvish was transferred from the IL to the restricted list as he deals with a personal matter. He's been out since early June due to a groin strain and right elbow inflammation. Brandon Pfaadt exited his starts early on Saturday after getting hit by a comebacker on his ankle. Pfaadt is expected to make his next start. Eduardo Rodriguez's MRI came back clean on Saturday. He's expected to throw a bullpen soon. Jason Hayward was put on the IL with a left knee contusion. James Outman was recalled. Outman was hitting pretty well in the minors. He's 14% rostered. Any interest in, I don't know, 5 leagues?
Absolutely.
Has he been in the lineup yet?
I don't know. Let me look that up.
Sunday, he hadn't been called up until Sunday, I believe.
No, so he was up on Saturday. He started Saturday, went 2 for 4, and he was out of the lineup Sunday, but came on as a pinch hitter.
Yeah, and look, they didn't commit to starting him every day. The quote I saw from Dave Roberts was something like, yeah, he's probably going to play against most righties, but he's been struggling against lefties even in the minors, so so I don't expect James Outman to be an everyday player, but he's 15% rostered, I think. I think any 15-team league, James Outman, we've seen him be a must-start fantasy player before. So even in 12-team roto leagues, I think he's worth a look. Not necessarily a must roster, but definitely worth a look.
I'd prefer those at bats just go to Miguel Vargas at this point. Not that anyone asked me.
They're not going to.
Vargas, by the way, he has heated up a little bit here. I wish they would give him a little bit more playing time, but that has not worked out. 2 homers this weekend for Miguel Vargas, but he has started, I don't know, it looks like 2 of the past 10 games, something like that. Just not really playing much. The Braves signed Eddie Rosario to a minor league contract. He could matter in deeper leagues later this season. Nick Senzel was designated for assignment by the Nationals. Trey Lipscomb was recalled, and Lipscomb has 10 steals in 39 games, so another name that could matter in deeper roto leagues. Matt Wallner was recalled by the Twins, and he was hot down in the minors since June 1st at AAA, 342 batting average, 12 home runs, and 1143 OPS, 5% rostered. Scott, who would you rather speculate on in those deeper 5 outfielder leagues, Outman or Matt Wallner?
Outman. Wallner, we could see him go on a power binge that wouldn't be out of character. Maybe he arrives hot, as you pointed out. But for now, I'm probably just leaving him for like AL only leagues because the downside is so steep.
Wallner is one of those players who like the fantasy community as a whole has really gotten excited about over the past year. I don't really get it.
I like him.
Well, it's such a strong finish last year. I think
he has a lot of power, but even in the minors, that's manifested in 35% strikeout rates and high 800s OPSs. So I don't really get what we're hoping for at the major league level. Maybe he runs into 25 homers as a part-time player and hits 220. I don't really see the ceiling with Matt Wallner. He's a fine target in a 15-team league, but I think that's about it.
A few prospect notes. The D-backs are expected to call up one of their top pitching prospects, Gilbert Diaz, to start Monday against the Braves. In 15 starts in the minors this season, a 4.03 ERA, 124 whip. Does pitch in very hitter-friendly environments, so worth pointing that out. Lots of strikeouts, 105 strikeouts over 76 innings. And the Dodgers promoted one of their pitching prospects, Justin Robleski, to start on Sunday. He allowed 4 runs over 5 innings, gave up 2 home runs in this one. Minor league numbers are pretty good for Robleski as well. Scott, do either of these names matter at all? Gilbert Diaz, Justin Robleski.
I think Gilbert Diaz is the more interesting of the two. He was one of my 10 pitching prospects who've improved their stock the most back when I wrote that on May 30th. The walks have climbed a bit in recent starts, and that makes him a little less appealing, but he's got a fastball triple digits that he locates well up in the zone, and you see the strikeout numbers. And as you pointed out, he's pitched at really hitter-friendly places in the minors this year, and I think definitely bears watching. Gilbert Diaz.
I do think Robleski is interesting, but not necessarily for fantasy. He's just like interesting to watch pitch because he's got like the least extension on his delivery of any pitcher in baseball. From what I saw, he was like first percentile in extension, but he's got this crazy riding fastball that really works for him. So he was fun to watch. I think he's probably not going to be all that great, although I do think he only really made like 2 bad pitches in this one. They just, both happened to be home runs.
Yeah. And as a lefty who throws mid-90s, it could be something there. We'll see. Let's talk waiver wire hitters. And we already mentioned Ben Rice and Jose Miranda in shallower leagues. I think a couple of their names that are popping up right now. Brooks Lee, who we spoke a lot about last week, getting promoted by the Twins. He's just off to a great start. 5 games. He has 9 hits, 1 homer, 3 runs, 6 RBI. He's 53% rostered. He's got 6 games this week, 3 at the White Sox. So I think some pretty solid matchups there. Chris, how much fab did you see Brooks Lee going for? Are you excited to try and add him? Is he a must-add player? What do you think?
I don't view Brooks Lee that differently than it sounds like Scott does. I think there are very obvious flaws in his game, and it requires the hit tool to really play up for it to all work out. But the minor league production is pretty good. I wish he ran more. He's not someone that I'm like pounding down the door for. And the one league that I saw Fab run in, I didn't see Brooks Lee go there. Only $41 out of 1,000. So people are not.
His bids are all over the place.
Yeah.
Just I've seen ones where he's over 300 for $1,000 Fab. I won him in TGFBI for 34.
Yeah, so like I think that makes sense, right? Like I think he's worth a low but non-zero offer. And if you don't get him, I think the likeliest outcome is he's not a difference maker, and it's not going to materially impact your chances of winning a championship this year. But he could get hot and hit 285 with, I don't know, 8 to 10 homers and 8 to 10 or maybe 5-ish steals the rest of the way. I think that's possible.
It did surprise me how little he went for in some of those 15-team roto leagues where you just rarely see a viable hitter emerge on the waiver wire. And that's the kind of league you're talking about where he went for 4% of the starting budget, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't speak that glowingly of Brooks Lee, and given the context of that league, I put 20% of my budget in on him, and I could have only put 7% and won him. So I way overbid on him, it turns out, in one of those 15-team roto leagues, as somebody who I thought was kind of down on Brooks Lee relative to the consensus. But I guess that shows you where the consensus is. He has done it so far. I mean, obviously a tiny sample, but he struck out only twice. If he keeps the strikeouts that low, obviously improves his odds. That home run he hit was only 99.8 miles per hour off the bat, which is not the kind of exit velocity you normally see on home runs. And yet he hit it at such an optimal angle that it traveled 395 feet. It's pretty impressive to hit it that far on that exit velocity. And he may just have one of those freakish sort of swings that breaks all the usual metrics. Too early to say that, but given how productive he was at AAA, it's possible. I'm keeping an open mind, but I remain lukewarm on Brooks Lee.
Jared Kelenic continues to impress since being moved to the leadoff spot. He went 1 for 3 with a sock and a shoe on Sunday, his 10th homer, his 4th steal. And in those 21 games since being moved to leadoff, 298 batting average, 6 homers, 13 runs, 14 RBI, 3 steals. So doing a little bit of everything. Scott, are we getting to the point now where Jared Kelenic just needs to be rostered even in 3 outfielder leagues? Because he's only up to 73% right now. So could see out there.
I don't think so. I mean, my perception is he's doing well, but then I look at the week by week breakdown in a points league. I don't think he's had a 20-point week yet. If I'm just remembering off the top of my head, I was underwhelmed when I saw the week by week point breakdown. So I believe the Braves aren't facing a single left-hander this week. It's not a bad time to try out Jared Kelenic. Obviously, 5 outfielder leagues, he's probably already rostered at this point. But if you have a need in a 3 outfielder league, I just lost Luis Rengifo in one of mine and put in a bid for Kelenic. But I don't see him as like must-add in that format.
Fair enough. Other catchers that could be out there in 1-catcher leagues, if you're just looking to stream that position, Mitch Garver has 2 home runs in his past 4 games, and he has 7 homers, 19 RBI in his past 25 games. So the power has been better recently for Garver. He's still batting right around 200 during that 25-game stretch. And Shea Langoliers has also been hitting for power recently. He homered on both Friday and Saturday, and he is 59% rostered. Chris, who do you prefer between Langoliers and Garver? Do you take either one over Ben Rice?
No, I'd rather have Ben Rice than either, but I think they're probably pretty close. I would have Garver ahead just because he has a little bit of a better track record, but I expect very similar things from them, which is a lot of home runs. But there's no reason to think Mitch Garver is going to hit for any batting average this season. His XBA is 187, so it's not bad luck. So yeah, I think they're both just number 2 catchers.
Speaking of 2-catcher leagues, check to see if Bo Naylor was dropped in any of those because he has been hitting better as of late. Last 15 games, batting .311 with 2 homers, 11 RBI, 1 steal, and a .947 OPS. Again, that's Bo Naylor.
I did stupidly start him ahead of Ben Rice this week, but Naylor was actually pretty good. It just Ben Rice was a little better.
A little bit better, but yeah, Bo Naylor is coming around.
Jared Kelenic has had 1 20-point week this year, 23.5.
I wondered what you were looking up because you looked deep in thought. You were
things weren't working like they were supposed to, so it took me 5 minutes to find something that should have only taken 5 seconds.
2 middle infielders that have been making some noise recently. Luis Garcia, 4 for 5 with a sock and a shoe on Friday, 3 for 5 with 2 RBI on Saturday, and Colt Keith, who went 2 for 5 with a double dong on Friday. Last 5 games, he has 9 hits, 3 homers, 5 runs, 5 RBI, and 1 steal. So it was a slow start, but we've seen this with many prospects. Colt Keith might just be starting to put it together a little bit. Scott, who do you prefer between those two? Luis Garcia, Colt Keith?
Luis Garcia. But it wouldn't surprise me if Colt Keith had a breakout second half, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is the start of it. It's just... Garcia's been much, much more productive. He just had, I think he scored like 34 points this week, something like that, for a player who's generally not in the lineup against lefties, though I think that's changing. His numbers aren't good against lefties, but no, he's still sitting a fair amount against lefties. Put up a ton of points, though.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about like this week, right? Is
great matchups for the Nationals. Yeah,
3 lefties. That's going to make it hard for Luis Garcia.
I wonder, and I could look this up pretty easily because I know they've started to sit Winker against lefties, but like they bring him in against the first righty reliever, so he's still had a couple big games off the bench. And it looks like they've been doing that with Garcia too. He got 3 at-bats in a game off the bench this week. Yeah. Yeah, it may be less of a hindrance than it seems.
Mm-hmm. For those who play in daily lineup leagues, I do think Luis Garcia could excel in a format like that. He's only 34% rostered on Yahoo, where I do know there are lots of daily lineup leagues over there. Some names in deeper leagues. Rowdy Tellez is heating up 2 for 4 with a double dong, 5 RBI on Friday. Dane Myers had a good weekend against the White Sox. He had 5 hits, 1 homer, and 1 steal. John Singleton, last 9 games, batting .367 with 2 home runs, 8 runs, and 6 RBI. And Lennon Sosa has been hitting well for the White Sox. Last 8 games, .441 batting average, 2 homers, 1 steal. Any of these names matter in deeper leagues. Rowdy Tellez, Dane Myers, John Singleton, Lennon Sosa.
I mean, Dane Myers actually has decent minor league numbers. It's like high 700s OPSs, so it's nothing to get too excited about. But in and out, like, he batted cleanup for the Marlins on Saturday. So, like, he's going to get an opportunity, and he might, like, I could see 8 to 10 home runs and 8 to 10 steals the rest of the way. Like, that's an optimistic projection, but I could see that in an only league mattering.
I did not have Dane Myers on my bingo card today. I did not think he did.
I honestly, I only added him to the deep league portion of the waiver wire because I saw he's been batting like 4th and 5th for the Marlins.
I think Singleton's the most interesting of these, but we've been curious about him all year, and this is the first time he's shown any signs of life. So it's certainly not a priority ad.
All right, let's take our final break, and when we return, we'll talk waiver wire pitchers right after this.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
Welcome back in. Let's talk waiver wire pitchers. And first up in shallower league, Shane Baz made his season debut on Friday at Texas. 6 innings, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, mostly a 3-pitch mix. Velocity looked fine here with Shane Baz. Reese Olson pitched well again. He was at the Reds, 5 2/3, 2 runs allowed, 1 of those earned, 8 strikeouts, 16 whiffs on 88 pitches. Tyler Anderson.
You can't keep getting away with it.
I mean, he can.
You can't keep getting away with it. He won't.
He can if he keeps striking out 10 batters and walking none. He can. He's just not going to do that.
If this is the mark of a skill change, him getting 10 strikeouts and 22 whiffs, then okay. But yeah, one start is not going to convince me that's the start of a skill change. But that was always the caveat, right? Like, I wouldn't believe in Tyler Anderson even if he was doing this until into September, unless there's a skill change along the way that changes the profile.
He had 10 walks to 9 strikeouts in his previous 3 starts.
Yeah, I think he had him as a sleeper pitcher last week when he had good matchups, and he let us down in a 2-start week. And then he comes out here and just has an amazing start at the Cubs.
Like, if he'd been getting 10 strikeouts all along, his FIP would look amazing instead of like 5.
He does get the Mariners.
That's exactly what I was.
So I think he could be useful again. But this was, I don't know if it's the single most unlikely 10 strikeout, 0 walk performance of the season, because I think DJ Hertz did it twice. But it's pretty unlikely.
Maybe DJ Hurst can just do that sometimes. Maybe it's not so unlikely. I do want to comment on Shane Baz here. Did you finish going through the names, or did we jump in on Tyler?
Yeah, I was going to bring up Spencer Strollenbach, but I'll save that. How do you guys rank the 3? Baz, Olson, and Tyler Anderson.
Baz, Olson, huge gap Anderson.
Yeah, Baz, Olson, Schwellenbach, Drew Thorpe, Andrew Heaney, Yadiel Rodriguez. I think those are the only ones I would take above Tyler Anderson among the rest of the long list.
So this wasn't the most dominant outing for Baz. Obviously, he escaped with a quality start, but it's not like he looked amazing. I will point out his curveball seemed off. Everything else seemed fine. The curveball was up 1.7 miles per hour. Its vertical movement was down 3 inches. Its horizontal off by 2. And he wasn't throwing it much in the minors until his final rehab start. That was one reason I thought the Rays were delaying him, is because he didn't have the curveball quite up to speed yet. It got 0 whiffs in this game. So I still don't think it's up to speed. But when it gets up to speed for Baz, like hopefully he doesn't shy away from using it because it's not totally up to speed. Because if he gets it there, the way everything else looks, I think we'll see him take off.
And there is top 20 potential the rest of the way with Shane Boss. So I would prioritize him over pretty much any pitcher that's not 100% rostered.
This one's interesting because Boz 74% rostered. If you get him, do you start him this week? He faces the Yankees, who are technically first in WOBA, but their lineup has been scuffling lately. So
I would, the kind of shallow leagues we're talking about, I think you could have somebody more trustworthy there.
Okay. A couple other pitchers that pitched well this weekend. Spencer Schwellenbach. I'm just going to read off the names and you guys can elaborate. But Drew Thorpe pitched well at the Marlins. Albert Suarez, quality start at the Oakland A's. Andrew Heaney pitched well once again. Sean Manaea, strong start at the Pirates. And Simeon Woods Richardson. So there are 6 names here. Woods Richardson, Manaea, Heaney, Albert Suarez, Drew Thorpe, Spencer Schwellenbach. Were there any names there that you were prioritizing in the waiver wire?
Schwellenbach for sure. He's at the top of that list for me. I really like a lot of what we've seen from him. The xERA, the FIP is all much better than the overall numbers. The splitter in particular looks like a really, really good pitch. So
he doubled its usage in the start, the splitter, which, he's been varying his pitch usage a lot from start to start, which is kind of what makes him interesting. But it was nice to see him break out that best pitch more. While throwing 74% of his pitches for strikes, which has also been a common theme for him.
I think there's a clear gap between him and the rest of this group. Like I mentioned, I would take him over Tyler Anderson fairly easily if I have Tyler Anderson in my roster. I wouldn't hesitate to drop him for Spencer Schwellenbach. And I also just want to highlight something we talked about when Andrew Heaney made his last start that continued in this one, which was the higher slider velocity. Up about 1.7 mile an hour. The movement profile was a little bit different, looked more like it did in that 2022. Was that the year he was with the Dodgers? 2021, I think.
22. No, I think you're right.
Whatever
he's talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever year he was good with the Dodgers, a big part of that, and we hammered this the whole year that he was good, was he was throwing the slider harder. He had remade the shape, and then he went back the last couple of years. In the past 2 starts, slider has looked more like it did with the Dodgers, and he's been really good. I think
it's 3 out of 4. It's 3 out of 4 where Heaney's had a huge strikeout rate and higher velocity on the slider. So, maybe you do that 3 times in 4 and all the underlying, there's like an underlying change beneath the numbers backing it up. Then I think it's time to take Andrew Heaney seriously.
If I didn't need the start this week, I think I'd be fine dropping Tyler Anderson for Andrew Heaney as well.
Yeah, because
chasing the upside there.
The problem with Heaney is he's at the Astros this week, so you don't want to play him there. But I agree. I remain intrigued. Last 4 starts for Heaney, a 2.70 ERA, a 1.03 WHIP, 11.6 K per 9.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of amazing. Getting back to Schwellenbach, in college he was a reliever and a shortstop. And he comes in here. This is his 2nd professional season, and he's got like 6 pitches and elite control. How does a college shortstop and part-time reliever become that good at pitching that fast?
Tin Stap. It works both. I mean, this is one of the most enduring things about pitching is there's no such thing as a pitching prospect is what I'm referring to. And most people take that to mean that you can't trust pitching prospects to live up their potential, but it works both ways because you get guys get called up and just immediately look much better than they ever did in the minors. It doesn't happen that often, but it happens enough that you can't just what was the Yelber Diaz, right? That was the Diamondbacks guy we talked about earlier, where
yes. Yep.
He's viewed as a future reliever by most scouts, I think. The minor league numbers are pretty good, but not overwhelming. But it's 105 strikeouts in 75 innings. That's interesting enough for me to say, yeah, let's see if he catches lightning in a bottle, because it happens sometimes. Spencer Strider was he ever a top 100 prospect in baseball?
No,
I don't think so.
This happens occasionally enough where you do have to take flashes seriously. Garrett Crochet and Luis Heel. That you have to take these flashes seriously, because unlike with hitters where the track records are very large and the physical tools don't change quite as much, pitchers can change pretty substantially in relatively short amounts of time.
One last observation on these pitchers here, Drew Thorpe. So, yeah, his starts, he's had 4 good starts and 5 chances. The whiffs have been almost entirely on the changeup. That seems like the only pitch he has.
Yeah.
But 4 good starts and 5, right? Well, the 4 good starts have come against Miami, Colorado, Detroit, and Seattle. The bad one was against Arizona, the one legit offense he faced. So just something to keep in mind on Drew Thorpe.
And he gets the Twins this week, and their lineup has been pretty hot recently. So as much as I like it, I think he's doing some things. I think he's a name to watch. I would not want to start Drew Thorpe this week if I could avoid it. The one name on this list that we didn't really talk about that has a great matchup this week is Sean Manaea. So if you are looking for a starter this week, he gets the Rockies in New York, and obviously it's a great matchup. And he's pitching well. Last 5 starts for Manaea, 1.57 ERA, a 1.01 WHIP.
Did we get to the deeper league part?
Nope. I was about to read those names off right now. So 5 names: Yariel Rodriguez, Kyle Freeland, Luis Ortiz, Jonathan Cannon, and Hayden Wesneski. Anything to add on this group?
I think Yadier Rodriguez is pretty interesting. That's 2 starts in a row now where I believe he's gone over 6 innings. He's gotten a decent amount of strikeouts, the walks, notably in both. I think it's 2 walks in each or 3 walks total across the 2 starts, something like that. Yeah, just 2 walks in each of the past 2 outings, allowing 1 earned run in 12 2/3 innings of work. Just reading what I wrote earlier. He's interesting. He's got a handful of pitches that all look decent to pretty good. So I think Yadier Rodriguez probably still just a 15-teamer, but in a deeper 12-team categories league where there's just nothing on the wire, I think Yadier Rodriguez is an interesting ad.
Okay. Yeah. Again, he's widely available, 13% rostered if you just want to take a shot and see where it goes. Not that I don't think you should use him this week because he's at the D-backs. It's a pretty tough matchup, but 2 intriguing starts in a row there from Yariel Rodriguez. Some rough outings this weekend from starting pitchers. Some pretty big names here. Sonny Gray has looked a little bit more human recently at the Nationals. 5 innings, 5 runs. Still had 6 strikeouts to 1 walk. Pablo Lopez got clobbered by the Astros. 5 innings, 6 runs, 6 strikeouts. His last 2 starts were great. They were also up against the Oakland A's and the Seattle Mariners. So not great that we see him up against a great offense again, and this is what happened. Garrett Cole has yet to turn in a quality start. A mixed outing up against the Red Sox, 4 1/3, 4 runs allowed, 8 strikeouts. The overall line is not good, but 14 whiffs on 90 pitches. I thought that was pretty encouraging for Garrett Cole. Hunter Brown, his great run came to a screeching halt up against the Twins. 6 innings, 12 hits, 7 runs allowed. And Ranger Suarez has taken a step back. 2 starts in a row where he has given up 5+ earned runs. Anything you'd like to add on Ranger Suarez, Hunter Brown, Garrett Cole, Pablo Lopez, and Sonny Gray?
So the exit velocity against Hunter Brown in this one, average exit velocity was only 85.5 miles per hour. He kind of summed up the start by saying soft contact is kind of what you're going for. So he had some bad luck there, it seems. He did throw his fastball more, and he has been throwing it more the past couple turns than I would like. When he took off, he was fading the 4-seam fastball, and now he's kind of bringing it back. So that makes me a little uneasy. But the bottom line is I'm not ready to abandon ship here on Hunter Brown after this bad start. Garrett Cole, his velocity was up again nearly a mile per hour from where it had been just this year. So now it's almost to where it was last year, the average fastball velocity. So I think Cole is trending the right direction. Mm-hmm. But it would be nice to get some actual results here. And I think you probably just don't want to start him right now until we see him look truly like Garrett Cole again.
Especially at the Orioles this week, too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he had a good start, but yeah, I think I would lean towards sitting him if I can.
Yeah. I think the regression's finally coming for Ranger Suarez. He's still a good pitcher, but I never bought into the ace outcome that he was delivering. And finally, Pablo Lopez. I think he's kind of going through I'm wondering if it's an Aaron Nola situation where if he's just not locating well enough, he gets crushed, because there just seems to be such a severe dichotomy, between the good starts and bad starts, kind of like we see from Nola. I don't know. I mean, it seems like he should be more overpowering than Nola, and just from a pure pitch characteristics standpoint, but he keeps having these disaster starts. So
the one thing I would say that was, if you want to say optimistic, but at least not as discouraging about this one, was it wasn't home runs. That had been the issue. It had been a lot of home runs, had been a lot of barrels. He didn't really give up a ton of hard contact in this one. He didn't really get hit all that hard, 89.1 mile per hour average exit velocity. So on the whole, if it hadn't come after the horrible May in particular, I don't think we would talk about this Pablo Lopez start. So I still think he's fine, but I have thought he was fine the whole season, and that hasn't been right yet. So I don't know.
Last point on Pablo Lopez. He's 79% started on CBS. He's at the White Sox this week. So I do think you want to get Pablo Lopez back in your lineups.
Yep.
Some pitching leftovers. Part 1, Justin Steele turned in the first complete game of his career Friday up against the Angels. He allowed 2 hits, 1 run with 7 strikeouts. Tarek Skubal was amazing at the Reds. 7 innings, 1 run, a career high 13 strikeouts with 23 whiffs. Paul Skeens turned in another great start up against the Mets. 7 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. He has gone 7 innings in 2 of his last 3 outings. And Kevin Gausman turned in a strong start at the Mariners. 6 innings, 2 runs, 10 strikeouts. He had 21 whiffs. Do you take that with a grain of salt because it comes up against the Mariners? Probably.
Well. Kevin Gausman apparently 2 days before the start decided to change his mechanics. He was more hunched over in his delivery, is how he described it, which created a lower arm angle on his fastball. He got 17 of his 21 whiffs on the fastball, which was up 1.5 miles per hour. He said it was something they were looking into, trying to get him back to what he was doing in 2021. He thinks it'll allow him to be in the zone more, in addition to making the fastball more effective. He said that he hoped it would create more vertical drop on his splitter too, because he's felt like it's had too much horizontal movement and not enough vertical. The data doesn't show that, and he only got 2 whiffs on the splitter in this start, but the fastball, there seems to be some reasons why it was so effective in this start, getting 17 of those 21 whiffs. And, if you make a legitimate mechanical change, then that's something that could take a pitcher's outlook in a completely different direction. I don't know if it's going to end up in a positive direction for Gausman still, but the first shot, it was great. So,
we're hoping for reasons to be optimistic.
Right.
And that's definitely one.
Yes, absolutely.
Pitching standouts part 2. We had, I'll just read off the names. You guys can go. Nestor Cortez, Cole Reagans, Luis Castillo, Hunter Green. Any notes on that group?
Hunter Green just continues to be a little inconsistent, but I think on the whole, much better than we've ever seen from him. I don't know if this is like the fully realized version of Hunter Green that we've been hoping for, but his fastball just continues to play way, way better than it ever has in the past. That had always been the biggest problem, is his fastball just gave up way too much hard contact, and specifically way too many home runs. And in terms of quality of contact allowed, the fastball suddenly looks like a really good pitch. It's like a 280 expected WOBA on the season. So I don't know if that's the location has been a little more consistent and that's helping it play up, but that may be less sustainable. Or I think you can make a case that just the 9 to 10% of the time that he throws that splitter, maybe it's just making the fastball play up a little more. And so either way, I mean, the underlying numbers are much better than we've seen from Hunter Green. I think he's legitimately a must-start pitcher now, where he has not been in the past.
Only other thing I'll add from this group, Luis Castillo, his slider was different in this start. The velocity was down 3.2 miles per hour, but the spin rate was up 103 RPM. So I don't know, like
that's interesting.
Seems like something that was conscious here, and it was all right. He only got 1 whiff with the pitch, but there was good results on balls in play. So something to watch with Luis Castillo.
I'll mention something here for Cole Reagans. His fastball was down like 1 mile per hour and a half in this one, and that's 2 starts in a row. And actually, kind of everything was down for him in this start. You may not care that much because he dominated at Colorado, but the previous start, when we first saw the velocity dip on that fastball, wasn't so good for Cole Reagans. So it's just something to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. Pitching standouts part 3. We had this group is Taj Bradley, Ronaldo Lopez, and Nathan Eovaldi. Anything to add on that group?
So I don't feel like Taj Bradley was anywhere close to his best in this one. He got only 6 whiffs, and all of them were on the splitter. We've seen all of his pitches. Normally when he's on, like, all of his pitches are getting whiffs. And it seemed like only the splitter was working on this one. And yet, against the Rangers, he still allowed 1 earned run in 6 innings. So I took that as a very good sign for Taj Bradley, that he could have such an off day and still be that effective.
Chris, I know you almost chose Ronaldo Lopez as your player of the weekend.
Yeah. So I was writing my newsletter earlier, and I listen to music while I write, and I had a 90s/2000s rock radio playlist, and the song, this is not a bit. This is actually what happened. The song that came up as I was writing about Ronaldo Lopez was Newfound Glory's All Downhill From Here.
Oh, gosh.
And that is exactly how I feel about Ronaldo Lopez. He has, I think it's 11 walks over his past 3 starts. The control has been significantly worse. He is outperforming his expected ERA by 2.5 runs. Now he's down to a 1.71 ERA. The thing about Ronaldo Lopez is, even if you think he has some ability to continue to outperform his expected stats to an extent that no other pitcher has, let's grant that he is a true talent level 2.75 ERA pitcher. Let's grant that. I don't think that's true, but let's grant it. He's thrown, I think, 86 innings this season, 89 innings, something like that. The Braves just aren't letting him go deep into games consistently unless he's just absolutely pristine. They're not pitching him every 5th day. I think he is like the most obvious sell high candidate in baseball right now. And then maybe nobody's buying and you just hold on to him and drop him when the ERA gets back up to 4, which I think it will. But given the fact that I don't believe in the surface level numbers, and he's not as valuable as the surface level numbers would make you believe because of the volume, I think you should be doing everything you can to try to trade Ronaldo Lopez right now.
The last 2 pitching leftovers were Brady Singer, who had a dominant start at the Rockies, 7 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts, and Cutter Crawford, who opposed Luis Gil on Sunday Night Baseball. He threw 7 shutout innings with 4 strikeouts. He has thrown 72 pitches or less in back-to-back starts. Just seems a little weird, but he still went 6+ innings in each. I don't really know what to make of that, but that's Cutter Crawford.
Freaking efficient. That's what I make out of it. You know, if it was 5 innings and they pulled him after 72 pitches, that's one thing, but 6 innings, I don't know. They probably just didn't want to let him go past 6 innings because usually
7 today.
Oh, okay. 7, even better. And he threw 70 or 6. Okay. 68 pitches in 7 innings. That is insane. And that's really all I take from it.
All right.
He's been a strike throwing machine this year, and it continues. And looks like he's bounced back nicely from that little rough patch he had.
All right, some hitting leftovers. Hitters who have picked things up lately: Manny Machado, Byron Buxton, Brent Rooker, Lourdes Gurriel, George Springer, all varying timelines and start points and end points that I chose. But those 5 names are hitting well right now. Was there anything you'd like to add on Machado, Buxton, Rooker, Gurriel, and Springer?
You want to wax poetic about Byron Buxton here, Chris? I don't think I have a lot to say about this group.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. Byron Buxton's really good. I don't know. He's gonna get hit by a pitch next week, and everyone's like, "Oh, I told you so," and whatever. But he's an awesome player. I hope.
Sounds like you're telling us so.
And Brent Rooker, I think he's just like the streakiest player in baseball right now. Like, he just, when he's hot, he's so hot. But man, the lows are super low, and I think you probably just ride it. He's not as good as a 1078 average and 890 OPS. Helps that he's hot currently. I would imagine 12 games ago, he was hitting like 240. But he's a good source of power at a time when, even when things are heating up, it's still hard to find. So I think he's, certainly every categories league, Brent Rooker is a very, very viable starter.
Some other hitting leftovers, Brian Reynolds, a huge game on Friday, 4 for 5 with a double dong and 6 RBI. Wilson Contreras had a big weekend, really starting to round back into form since returning from the IL, 2 for 5 with a homer on Friday, and then 2 for 5 with a sock and a shoe on Sunday. His 9th home run, his 3rd steal. Trey Turner in 18 games since returning from the IL, 321 batting average with 5 home runs and OPS over 900. Will Smith, 3 for 3 with a triple dong, 4 runs, 3 RBI, 2 walks on Friday. Just a massive game for him and great season all around for Will Smith. I know it's only been 1 week for James Wood, but he looks like he belongs so far. A huge game on Saturday, 2 for 5 with his first career home run. He added 5 RBI. Both of those hits went to the opposite field.
I think his first hit, which was like a 103-mile-an-hour ball, was also the other way.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
96.9 average exit velocity entering Sunday, 76% ground ball rate for James Wood. So
he seems a little late, just on the whole. That's kind of my take, but the fact that he's not overwhelmed right now makes him one of the more successful top prospect call-ups of the last year.
Stephen Kwan continues his breakout. He hit 2 more home runs over his last 4 games. He has 9 home runs in 62 games this season. He had 11 home runs in his first 305 games entering this year. So whatever they're doing out in Cleveland, it is working. Shohei Ohtani continues to dominate, 2 for 2 with a sock and a shoe on Saturday. He added 2 more steals on Sunday. Brenton Doyle had a huge week, 45.5 fantasy points on CBS. That's awesome stuff. Full week in Coors Field. That'll definitely help.
Yep.
Bobby Witt had himself a big week as well. Last 7 games, 536 batting average, 3 homers, 9 runs, 8 RBI. Christian Yelich continues to do his thing. Last 11 games, 386 with 4 homers and 4 steals. And Rafael Devers crushes the Yankees. He just loves crushing them. 2 for 4 with a sock and a shoe on Saturday, and then 3 for 4 with the double dong on Sunday. I don't like to admit this, but I really like Rafael Devers, the player. If he played on any other team, I would probably get his jersey, but just can't do it now with the Red Sox. Some bullpen updates this weekend for the Yankees on Friday. Clay Holmes got the 9th inning with a 2-run lead. He gave up a 2-run homer to Masataka Yoshida. Last 7 outings for Clay Holmes, a 10.8 ERA and a 165 whip. I don't know if there is a clear closer candidate that the Yankees could go out and get. I would say there is a non-zero chance that Clay Holmes gets overtaken by somebody after the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible.
All-star Clay Holmes, I will point out. Probably the most objectionable all-star on the AL team, considering he isn't the Yankees' lone representative.
I mean, would they try Luis Gil? Like, is it too important to keep him in the rotation? Like, couldn't that be a way to save his innings while maximizing the team's chances of winning a championship?
It's not crazy. I think that they would use him more in a multi-inning reliever role, like the way they used Michael King last year.
The rotation's kind of in shambles right now. Garrett Cole hasn't come back in pristine form. Carlos Rodon's a mess.
I'm blanking on the name.
Everything is in shambles, Scott. Lineup stinks too.
Yeah.
They're going to make several trades, I would say.
I would bet on them doing that. I think Tanner Scott makes so much sense. I don't know if he would become the team's closer or if the A's even want to trade Mason Miller. I know I've brought that up before, but maybe they could just get a huge haul for him. I don't know. For the
Carlos Estevez, how you feel about that one?
Oh,
it's been good lately.
Come on, Scott.
Tanner Scott, it's been good lately.
Tanner Scott could work.
Another all-star there.
For the Tigers on Friday, Jason Foley got the 9th with a 3-run lead. He gave up 2 runs on 4 hits, but picked up his 14th save. And then on Saturday, Jason Foley started the 9th inning with a 3-run lead. He gave up a run on 2 hits. He recorded 2 outs. He was relieved by lefty Andrew Chafin, who got the final out for his first save. This is another bullpen where if the Tigers could find someone else, I think they'd probably want to do that, but they just don't really have names. They don't have.
Yeah, it seems more likely they trade someone out than bring someone in.
I don't even know. Are they even competing? Are they close to a wild card spot? I feel like
I would guess not.
Yeah.
All right. 6 games under 500, so they're like.
Yeah.
Not
great. For the White Sox on Friday, Michael Kopech gave up a run, but recorded the final 4 outs for his 8th save. And then on Sunday, he imploded. Got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He gave up 4 runs on 2 hits and 2 walks. Took his 5th blown save and 8th loss. For the Phillies on Friday, Jose Alvarado got the 8th inning with a 5-run lead. Facing the top of the Braves lineup, he gave up a 3-run homer. It was Jeff Hoffman who got the 9th with a 2-run lead. He struck out 1 for his 8th save. Hoffman at 36% rostered seems undervalued, under-rostered. He just probably needs to be rostered in any categories league.
They went through a really weirdly long stretch in June with no saves, like 20 games or something where the Phillies didn't have a save. But Hoffman does have 3 of the last 4 for the Phillies. So,
and he's an all-star.
I think I would guess it's 55-45 Alvarado Hoffman, but Hoffman's been the better pitcher this season.
Scott is
not actually that close.
Scott is on top of the All-Stars, man. I don't know any of them, but Scott knows all of them.
I was studying them earlier today. I tweeted out my thoughts on the All-Star team.
Yeah, you were tweeting out like me for like a half hour there.
Hoffman.
Francisco Lindor not being an All-Star is
he has not made the player with the most wins above replacement at the All-Star break in 3 of the last 4 years to not be an All-Star is Francisco Lindor.
Wow.
Like, it's not even like he's had non-All-Star. He's been like a 3-WAR player by mid-July 3 of the last 4 seasons and has not made an All-Star game. It's wild.
I did have Francisco Lindor listed among my snubs, but I think the biggest snub in either league is Bryce Terang. And it's especially upsetting because I mentioned Clay Holmes was the most egregious selection on the AL side. Luis Arraez, the backup second baseman, is the most egregious selection on the NL side. And again,
it's barely
like Holmes in the AL, it's not like he's the Padres' own representative.
Yeah.
They didn't need him there. I think, what is Bryce Terang? I mean, obviously we love him in fantasy for the steals.
He's like top 8 in wins above replacement.
Right. His defense is so good. He's at 4 WAR according to Baseball Reference. Crazy.
Yeah. No, that is I didn't even realize the Bryce Terang thing, but yeah, I think that's a good call. For the Mets on Saturday, Edwin Diaz returned from suspension. He struck out 1 for his 8th save. For the Blue Jays on Saturday, Chad Green gave up a run but recorded the final 4 outs for his 4th save. And then on Sunday, Chad Green pitched a scoreless 9th inning with the game tied. The Blue Jays took the lead in the top of the 10th. It was lefty Genesis Cabrera who picked up his 2nd save. For the Dodgers on Saturday, Evan Phillips was called upon in the 8th with a 1-run lead to face 2, 3, and 4 in the Brewers lineup. He gave up a solo homer to Christian Yelich. The Dodgers then took the lead in the bottom of the 8th, and it was Alex Vesia who pitched a clean 9th for his 5th save. This is either the 2nd or 3rd time Phillips has been deployed in the 8th to face the heart of a team's lineup.
Vesia's been good. I think they've gone to him 3 times recently for the save, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like there's a little bit of a Phillies situation going on here between Phillips and Vesia, which nobody wants to see, of course. But if you're in a deep league where saves are impossible to find, I think Alex Vesia belongs in the discussion.
Yeah, in one of those 15-team roto leagues, I actually picked Vesia up here on Sunday because I'm desperate for saves. So I think it makes sense. For the Pirates on Sunday, Aroldis Chapman got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He gave up 2 runs on 3 walks and 2 hits. Took his 3rd blown save. And
I'm really excited for David Bednar to get back and hopefully look like himself so I can just drop Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah. Bednar going out on a rehab assignment this week. They probably won't activate him. Maybe over the weekend.
Yeah, maybe by the weekend, but not starting him this week. But I wouldn't mind sitting Aroldis Chapman either.
To stream or not to stream on Monday, I think Christian Scott at the Pirates is in play. I think Andrew Abbott versus the Rockies in Cincinnati, I think is fine. And then maybe one of either Michaelis or Mitchell Parker, they're facing each other.
Yeah, I think all 4 of those are okay. I could see John Gray at the Angels having a good start. I know it's been a little rocky lately, and I'm not a big believer in him, but I could see that going okay.
The first four we mentioned, Christian Scott, Andrew Abbott, Miles Michaelis, and Mitchell Parker, they are all among the weekly sleeper pitchers as 2-start pitchers this week. 2 favorable matchups for each of them.
And then on Tuesday, some options here. We have Ben Lively at the Tigers. Frankie Montas gets the Rockies in Cincinnati. Brian Bayo versus the A's. Jose Quintana versus the Nats. Michael Wacha at the Cardinals. Colin Ray versus the Pirates. It's not a terrible day on Tuesday.
So remember, Frankie Montas, like one great start this year was against the Rockies. It was at Coors Field. And it was a weird start where he threw his slider a bunch. But he has succeeded against them. It's the Rockies on the road, which is probably the best matchup in baseball. So I think that's an okay one. And
he's
Brian
my number
Bayo
2 sleeper pitcher for this week, Frankie Montas, with 2 favorable matchups. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, and then Brian Bayo versus Oakland, I think, can be pretty good as well.
Yep. He's on the 2-start sleepers for this week.
I
know I'm kind of like mixing two segments here.
Hey, we didn't have the segment last week.
We didn't. That's why I'm trying to sneak him in. Jose Quintana's a weekly sleeper for this week. All of them are 2-star pitchers, which I think is a first for this year. Michael Wacha is only in line for 1 start, but at St. Louis, that's a really good matchup. And if I could have fit a 1-star pitcher there, it would have been him. So if we're talking daily streamers, I think Michael Wacha might be my favorite actually at St. Louis, followed by Frankie Montas against the Rockies. Then Jose Quintana against the Nationals, who have the 3rd worst OPS against lefties. Brian Bayo against Oakland. Really good streamer day here Tuesday. And then one we haven't mentioned yet, Dean Kramer against the Cubs, who have, I believe, a bottom 10 offense now in terms of runs scored.
I mean, they just famously struck out 10 times and walked none against Tyler Anderson.
There you go.
There you go. We are going to wrap there for Scott. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.